This video is going to be a little bit different from videos I normally release on this channel. Many people, myself included, have used YouTube to learn photography, so I decided to bring my wife on and have her talk about her experience going to school for photography. For those who don't know, my wife Haley is also a photographer who specializes in branding and product photography. So I hope you guys enjoy the video. So it looks like our cat is going to join us for this video. Hop on up here, Amy.
Hi guys, my name is Haley. I am Dylan's wife. Recently I viewed a comment on his channel asking something about whether or not you should go to college for photography, or maybe this person was considering going to college for photography. And Dylan replied to this comment saying, that is the hugest waste of time. Don't do it. I could make a whole video about why you shouldn't go to college for photography, blah, blah, blah.
Okay, well, you are exaggerating right now.
I literally pull it up on my phone right now. Dylan says, I may get some flack for saying this, but I think it's a waste of time getting a degree in photography.
Because I think it is.
I could definitely make a full video talking about this.
Oh, did I actually say that at the end?
Yes.
Well, here we are now. Okay.
Well, I went to college for photography, and I'm really glad I did. I feel like I got a lot out of that. I would not be where I am today if I had not gone to college for photography. So I would like to argue my point. I think it's a little bit annoying that you think it was a waste of time for me to go to college.
I was not trying to sound pretentious or something. I just personally think that if you're going to go to college and you want to pursue a career in photography, you're better off going and getting a degree, like a business degree or something.
I would like to say this. I personally think university is a waste of time if you were planning to go to college for photography. University is extremely expensive. You have to take a ton of classes that have nothing to do with your major, that you don't need to take. And with community college, which is what I did, I didn't have to go into debt. It was financial aid basically covered all of it for me. And we jumped in, and it's very much, the college that I went to was very much focused in on like blue collar photographers, like really just learning the things you need to know if you're going to be working in the industry. I learned a lot about industry standards. I learned a lot about everything, about how cameras work, about the history of photography. I learned so much. I walked into that college not knowing what focal length meant, and I left that college an industry professional.
To be fair, I personally think everything you just said could be learned through YouTube as well. What I think college did do for you, which is definitely a good thing, is provided you with the equipment to practice and gain that experience and get to where you are. I mean, they provided you studio space. Did they have cameras to actually rent, or was
yes,
that?
There was cameras to rent. We had lighting. I got to use Pro Photos there, which I can't afford Pro Photos, but I got to use Pro Photos. I got to learn how to use Sony. I got to learn how to use Canon. I got to learn how to use Nikon. So if I wanted to go get a job at a studio right now and say they use Canon, I could do it. I learned how to use Canon. So I don't know. I feel like, you know, it very much was an umbrella. Like, I literally learned everything. I learned how to light portraits. I learned how to do portraits, like lighting patterns on the face. I learned about photojournalism and how to take a good photo that really tells a story. And I also learned about commercial photography, which is ultimately what I went into. And I learned how to photograph products and use artificial lighting and just all this stuff within this 2-year time span. When I went in not knowing what the heck I was doing, and then I left having 2 internships under my belt, I knew how to do basically everything. So
now, I think what it ultimately comes down to is what kind of photography you actually want to do. Yeah. Now, commercial, I completely understand you going to school for that because, you know, starting out, commercial photography might be a little bit harder because you don't have access to all of the lighting equipment or studio space, which you all really need for commercial photography. Now, there was also a group of students at your school that were going to school for like weddings and portraits and whatnot, which I just think is the largest waste of time, personally.
I don't think it's a waste of time. I think it is absolutely 100% doable to learn photography on your own, which you did, which mostly everybody I know did. But I also feel like there are a lot of benefits that come from going to school and learning from people who are already professionals in the industry, learning the history of everything. I don't know. I mean, we learned our first semester, we didn't even touch digital cameras. We just did film. And I think that helped me a lot when it comes to like, and not only did we just do film, but we did black and white film. So it was very much like centered on learning about framing a photo and getting it right the first time, because you're using film and you have very limited.
Which I think is really cool. I feel like I definitely would have enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Since I've never really got the chance to like learn film like that.
Yeah.
So.
And whenever I went, for some reason, my year, they were doing renovation in the building. So unfortunately, we didn't get to develop our own film. But we did go into the darkroom and like print from our negatives. We did do that, but we didn't get to learn how to develop film when all the other classes got to. But for some reason, I just kind of got unlucky and went during the year they were doing construction.
Yeah. Now, I know people who have gone to school and got their degrees in photography. They've gone to big name universities, which is a waste of time, and racked up so much debt, like probably $100,000 in debt, getting a degree in commercial photography. And then they graduate and they're just doing weddings. I'm like, you wasted your whole time at school learning this stuff when you could have just they had their camera. They could have gone out and started doing everything they were doing. And I think by the end of that 4-year time span that they were at college, they would probably be farther along and better in their actual wedding photography career or whatever else compared to.
I also think that has to do with where we live, because it's really hard to make money doing any other kind of photography here than weddings, because we live in the South and everyone here is getting married, and there's a whole lot of money in wedding photography, and that really is some people's only way of being able to do it full time here. So there isn't a whole lot of commercial stuff going on. We just kind of got lucky.
Yeah,
I think.
No, I agree.
Because I know multiple people who I went to school with, and they majored in, or they ended up going into journalism, or they went into portrait or commercial, and they graduated not really thinking they were going to do weddings, but now they do weddings because it's where we live, and that's how people end up making a lot of money and being able to do it full time. But I hate weddings, so I was like, heck no. I'm not doing it.
I feel that. But I also think it's okay, so maybe you're doing weddings just to make your money, but I don't see them practicing anything else or posting anything else as well. So
one downside about college is a lot of the people that I graduated with or went to school with, and they graduated, they left and they were already completely burnt out, and they decided to never touch a camera again.
I feel like that was kind of you for a little bit too, and then you had to like kind of ease yourself back into it. But it was also like, well, you also finished school right at the beginning of the pandemic, so
yeah, it was kind of like, the beginning of the pandemic.
At this point,
I finished school, but honestly, like the moment I was done with school, I started getting clients. So I kind of didn't really have a chance to be like, oh, I don't want to do photography right now.
Okay,
like,
fair.
I basically just went straight into working for myself. So, I mean, I was burnt out, honestly. And then as I started doing work for other people, I began to be even more burnt out. And I'm still burnt out to this day, but that's a different story.
I feel like we're all burnt out a little bit when we're like working by ourselves, trying to make ends meet.
I also wanted to say that I think it kind of has to do with like how you learn best, because I am not good at learning from YouTube videos. I'm not good at making myself sit down and search and look for what I need to look for. I feel like before college, I wouldn't have even known what to look for. I didn't know what shooting manual meant. I didn't know anything. I was like just shooting automatic, and I was like, yeah, I'm a photographer. And then people would be like, cool, like what's your favorite like focal length lens to use? And I would be like, and then I'd type into Google and I would choose a random one. I'm like 50
millimeters.
50
that
millimeters is my favorite. Because like that's when I was like on Tinder, and I had like photographer in my bio, even though I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And then so other like dudes that did photography like asked me questions about what kind of camera I got, what kind of lens I'm using, and I'm just like, maybe I don't know anything about photography.
Oh, I feel that. I mean,
took
like
photographer off my bio.
I feel like one thing, the people that are going to be watching this video, they watch YouTube videos though. So do you think they have a reason to actually go to college for it? Because like, you know, like manual, you can learn everything about how to shoot manual on YouTube. You can learn about all the different focal lengths there is out there. Do you think...
Well, there's one thing you get from college that you don't get from YouTube, and that's connections and opportunities.
Well, I feel like YouTube is the starting place, especially. I mean, I ended up getting connections and opportunities. I learned from YouTube. It's like once you learn, then you have to start putting yourself out there into the community, start meeting people, whether that's through like normal meetups. If you're bad at that? I'm the most socially awkward person there is. I'm terrible at it, and somehow I still did it.
I mean, I don't think I would be where I am right now if I hadn't have gone to college. Honestly, like the reason I know so many people like in the industry is because I went to college. I met a lot of people because they went to the same college as me.
Yeah.
Like the two girls that own the studios here in Winston, I only know them because they went to the same college as me a few years before. And that's kind of how I knew them. So, I mean, I feel like all my connections kind of come back to college.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
I don't think it's necessary, but I think it's like if you have the time to go, I think it's worth it.
Okay. Well, with that, I feel like we've kind of gone over everything there is, because I feel like my only counter argument is, but you can just learn that on YouTube. But I guess it really depends on the type of person. Like, do you learn well watching YouTube videos, or do you learn better actually going to a class? Especially, I guess the main concern there is like, can you afford it? Is it in your budget? Like, can you go to college?
Like financial aid covered everything for me. The only thing I really had to do was buy like film during my first semester. Like I had to buy a bunch of film and paper. That was a little pricey, and then obviously it was like 45 minutes away, so I was driving all the time, and gas was expensive, but I made it work. And
it's better than being $80,000 in tuition debt.
Seriously.
So with that,
don't go to university. Anyways. Okay, but I'm just saying, like, if you want to go to college to learn more about photography, if you go to university photography classes, they're gonna teach you about art and blah blah blah, art
stuff I do not care about.
Yeah, they don't teach you anything about like the business side of things. They aren't going to teach you about the industry standards. They aren't going to teach you how does a camera work. I looked at this diagram of a lens and how a lens even works at all
the like different pieces of glass and stuff. Yeah, it's pretty cool
stuff like that. Like, not that I need to know how a lens works, but I mean, you just kind of learn the ins and outs of everything, and I really appreciated it. There were a lot of people in my class who had gone to university for photography, and they were like, oh, I actually didn't learn anything valuable there. So they ended up going to the community college.
I think what it ultimately comes down to is, if you want to go to college and take classes on like photography, research the college and make sure their photography program is actually legit. A good one.
Yeah.
So.
And tour it. Go tour their facility, their studios, whatever, because I've heard about the studio at like App State, and I've heard it looks real dingy and real rundown. And then the one at the community college, I don't know where they got the money for that, but it was gorgeous. They had so much nice equipment. We were able to like use Capture One and like hook our cameras up to like the big Mac computers, and like
Yeah, your just the studio space, not even the classrooms, was larger than like a basketball gymnasium or something. It was
awesome.
huge.
We even pulled in like a car, like a really expensive car, and learned how to photograph a car.
See, now that's pretty cool. That's not something you're gonna easily be able to
exactly.
do.
Like you get
outside of
cool opportunities, and like I also am just not good at disciplining myself to sit down and learn something, like and I don't know where to start, and I just would not have been able to have the attention span or the self-discipline to sit down and teach myself everything from YouTube. I am really glad I was basically forced to sit in a classroom all day every day and then given assignments that I have to do so I don't flunk out, and like basically just I needed that push and that organization for me to like learn.
I guess I'm just that type of person where like once I kind of get interested in something, I'm like, oh, I gotta go to YouTube and read up or watch everything I possibly can.
You could
on
learn
said
anything
subject.
from YouTube. You were very good at teaching yourself things.
Yeah, I try.
I'm stupid.
Okay, don't say that. You're undermining yourself.
Okay, like picture a dumb blonde. That's me. I'm not blonde.
Used to be.
But I'm kind of a little bit ditzy.
No. Okay, well, with that, I think we've talked enough about should you go to college or photography.
Yes.
So it ultimately depends.
You should go.
I wanted to make sure I let you speak instead of actually trying to like argue with you. I had my counterpoints, but I wanted to make sure that it wasn't just a bunch of going back and forth, and so you could actually provide people with information because you have experience, because these people are coming to YouTube to look up this stuff and they don't want to hear arguments. They want to actually hear from people with experience who actually did go to college for said thing, which I did not. So thank you.
I think ultimately it's just up to learning style, what your life looks like, stuff like that.
Alright, well, thank you for watching the video, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please like the video and subscribe to help support me so I can continue growing and reaching a larger audience. And with that, go out and shoot.